Praise the Lord, everybody. The Lord is good. He is worthy to be praised. Yes, He is. From the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, the Lord is worthy to be praised. We missed you last week. There was some pressing issues that caused us to miss our week with you, but there is plenty to review. So I hope that you took available time and used it for your benefit. But nevertheless, we are here this week to again talk about grow in grace. God's unmerited favor has been just poured on us. We sometimes find our way out of position and we miss blessings that He intends for us to have. So we educate ourselves, we learn of Him, God's will, God's way, God's purpose causes us to grow in necessary areas that we are able to receive and to hold on to that favor that God is pouring into our lives. God bless you for taking time out to listen, and we hope that we'll say something that will be a blessing to you in this little time spent together. All of it as an accumulative lesson will be a blessing to each and every one of us. I'm growing as you are. I'm blessed that God would use me as an instrument, that His word can be presented to His children. So let's grow in grace. Tell your neighbor you're listening again, and they should pay attention to what you are receiving because God's word is for everybody. Yes, it is. It'll change a life for the better every time. And when we study this word, we improve. We read it, we improve. We hear it, our faith grows, and we're able to reach out, grasp, and hold on to more of what God has in store for us. Let's grow in grace. We started out a couple of weeks ago and we started dealing with time or time management, understanding what time is and how we should apply it to our journey, this marvelous journey of life. So we're going to stay there just for a little while this evening. A lot of the lesson now that I had the privilege of reading and studying and praying over ahead of time is a lot of common sense advice. And so I think that I'm going to read a few of these paragraphs verbatim before we talk about it. I hope that when my eyes are down on the paper, when I look up, you'll still be there. But nevertheless, we're going to read and see what the Lord would have us to hear on tonight. God bless you for even listening. Let's talk about time management in a little more detail. First of all, this paragraph reads, time is irreversible and irreplaceable. When we waste our time, we waste our life. Time is one of God's most important gifts. It is the carrier of life. When time washes away from our hands, our lives go with it. Time, like a precious treasure, should be guarded, managed, and accounted for. Time, well accounted for, is a life well spent. These points will almost give you chills when you stop and think about it. Time is irreversible and irreplaceable. We accept that and we recognize that particular point. We can't go back and relive any segment of our life. But when this author begins to say things like, when we waste our time, we waste our life, oh my, that's shocking and that's so poignant. It'll make us stop and begin to think, what are we doing with our time? What are we doing with our life? When it says time is the carrier of life, as we waste time, we give life away. And it causes us then to just come to grips with what we're doing with our time. Let me give you one Bible verse. Well, let me give you a couple, if I may. Ecclesiastes, you'll be very familiar when we begin at the 3rd chapter and the 1st verse. And it says, "To everything there is a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up." And it continues in this prose all the way down to the 9th verse. So when you get a chance, I want you just to turn to Ecclesiastes and read what this wise man Solomon is telling us about time. Solomon's point in this particular section is that God has a plan for all people. Thus, God provides cycles of life, each with its work for us to do. Although there are many problems we face that seem to contradict God's plan, these should not be barriers to believing in Him, but rather opportunities to discover that without God, life's problems have no lasting solutions. When we go through life, we're all going to face these particular seasons of life: birth and death, planting and reaping, killing, being healed, breaking down, building up, weeping, laughing, mourning, dancing. We're all going to go through these particular seasons in our life. We've got to begin to realize without God in the midst of it all, we perish. With God on our side, there's victory every time. But these things are going to take place. And what we do with the time we have in these particular seasons are of the utmost importance. We don't stop. We cannot retreat back into time. We've got to press forward. We've done time as a place, time as a realm, but now, in a serious fashion, time, the carrier of life. We can't waste it. We've got to be focused on what God has us assigned to do. We've got to be focused on receiving the good things God has placed in our life, because time moves, time travels, and time is the carrier of life. Let's read another one. Many of us spend our time each day aimlessly or almost unconsciously. We need direction, goals, purpose. We tend to take things the way they come to us. We do not attempt to control our lives or plan the way we use our time. Some people do not even make their own decisions. They let others control their time, planning for them what they should or should not do, or what is or is not important to them. They almost live as robots. Spending time aimlessly should be insulting to your own destiny and purpose. You should, when you look back on a day wasted, offend yourself. You should be offended at yourself that you didn't really accomplish anything all day long. One of the greatest robbers of time is television. That sometimes what they call it now, binge watching. That you say, I'm going to watch TV all day. Television, tell you your vision. I'm going to watch TV all day. Well, those are made up stories and presentations that are of no great purpose to developing who you're trying to be. Now, I will not sit here and tell you I don't watch TV. I do love sports and enjoy watching it and Then I become a little nerdy watching National Geographics and things like that. But I make sure that I'll shake myself and say, I can't stay here all day. And too many people are living now, especially because we've been slowed down for almost 2 years, and we just sit in the house and stare aimlessly at presentations prepared to waste our time. But we've got to realize that we need direction. We've got to realize that we set goals, and we might have to change our plans in efforts to reach those goals. Every time circumstances change, we may have to adjust our plans to continue to move forward. But when you have defined your goals, my goodness, your pathway will adjust if you stay focused. If you pursue what God has for you, you'll be amazed how that pathway will move around, over, and through obstacles trying to hinder you. But if you just sit there aimlessly, if you sit there almost unconscious, daydreaming real hard, has anyone ever spoke to you? I'm guilty. And you didn't even hear them call your name or aim the conversation in your direction because you're daydreaming so hard. But we've got to learn how to be focused. We've got to learn how to maintain a focus on our goals. We've got things to do. And these seasons are fleeting and passing by, but there's a time for every purpose. Let me see if I can read another footnote before we go a little further. You still with me? All right. Timing is important. All these experiences listed in these verses are appropriate for certain times. The secret to peace with God is to discover, accept, and appreciate God's perfect timing. The danger is not to doubt. No, the danger is to doubt and resent God's timing. This will lead to despair, rebellion, or moving ahead without his advice. That God is there with us in the midst of our journey, and we've got to learn how the senior said, accept what God allows. We've got to learn that these things are taking place for reason, and we trust him in the midst of it all. We've got to learn how to manage our time. We can do this thing. We can do it. Uh, you notice some people seem to always establish and leave behind a legacy known for this. What are you known for? What is that great purposeful thing that you do continually that you're just known for that? Oh yeah, they'll do that. Yeah, you've got to be consistent in your labor so that you begin to have impact not only on perfecting your own life, but those around you will be blessed because of the gifting in you that you release continually into the atmosphere, into society, into friends and family until you begin to impact their destiny. God has given you great power. So we've got to get organized. Time management. Here's some challenging thoughts. Here's some things we need to consider as we become expert in time management. Number one is we need to get organized. Stop doing useless tasks and find out what we really want. Get a diary or a tablet, a notebook, and implement a plan. Write it down, the things that will help us to do these most important tasks. Disorganization is time consuming and expensive. If we can delegate tasks to others who are better at them than we are, or we move ahead so we can focus on our own particular strengths. We've got to learn to recognize the things we do better than others and focus, lock in, and work in that particular area of labor. And when you find someone willing to be your partner, your support, and they do the other thing better, let them, and then collaborate. But we waste time sometimes because we don't really know what route we're taking. And we take advice then too eagerly because we haven't sat down and written out our plan. We haven't sat down and defined how we intend to accomplish our goals, because that written plan will keep you on the right track when you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the changes of circumstance, of opinions given. You can always go back to that vision that is written down and made plain. When you know what you're trying to accomplish, even when you wander off course, as we do all the time or sometimes, we can find our way back because our plan is defined, and the intricate parts that we may forget when we're stressed are written, and we can remind ourselves, this is how I accomplish it. This is how I accomplish it. This is what I decided to do if that circumstance ever arose. Write it down. Write it down. Come on, when you're serious about it, when you're focused, put it into words that won't change. Then use our time wisely. Invest our time in making others better. Invest our time in improving ourselves. Ask ourselves, why am I doing this? And if that why doesn't motivate you, is it really something you should set your life to accomplish? Why am I doing it? Could I be doing something better with my time? See, that's why I'm saying we got to define it, loved ones. Because when you make up in your mind, this is important, this has to be done, my goodness, you will press forward anyhow. You will move into a realm of a successful journey. You will enjoy the journey because you're in pursuit of your purpose, and you alone have that definition clearer in your conscience than anybody you would run into. Use your time wisely into making yourself a better person. If you know you've got to have it to achieve that goal and it's missing in your life right now, there you are with another directive. Improve that gifting, improve that skill set, that point of knowledge, so that when you begin to pursue your goal post haste, you have everything you need to drive you forward into victory. You're going to make it because you're called to victory. You're going to make it because you're a king's kid. You are anointed by God to achieve the things that He has laid at our hands. You're going to make it because no weapon formed against you will prosper. When God says it's so, it is so. But loved ones, let's make it in a hurry. Let's press forward. Let's keep on moving up the mountain and receive the things that God says we should have. Stop procrastination. Procrastination. Get started working towards our goals and our dreams. We cannot escape from responsibilities, and we can't be afraid of failure. But what we've got to do is narrow down the things that must be done, narrow down our interests, and get started. Don't make everything your tomorrow's task. But you know one thing? When you wake up in the morning, you owe it to yourself to say, I'm going to accomplish these things today. You remember a few lessons ago we said, make sure you have small goals mixed in with your major goals because you will accomplish those small tasks, and they'll give you that moment of satisfaction, of joy, of relief. And you won't feel all stressed out and pressed to get that major thing done. But when you wake up in the morning, you should be able to list, this is what I'm going to accomplish today. That's the only difference between those people that seem to get so much done and people that seem to leave so much undone. The tasks have not been defined. What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do with the rest of this evening? What are you going to do all week, all month, all year? What is the central purpose of your life? We've got some defining to do. We've got some personal work to do that no one can do for us. All right, we still managing our time? Here's one. Set deadlines. Deadlines are not only important to goals, they are important to time management. Goals structure life, and time management structures goals. Set deadlines and try our best to meet them. When you've got to get it done by Friday, you won't wait until Thursday midnight to get started. When you've got to get it done by 5 p.m., you'll get up in the morning and say, I've got to work towards it all day long. When you have a deadline, you have greater focus. You have a goal. When you have a deadline, you have motivation. So sometimes, especially because we're talking about our personal life, set some deadlines as to when this needs to be accomplished. When will that goal be completed? Now, don't be afraid of failure. Be focused on pressing forward, and you will again be amazed how much you will accomplish. One of the secretive things that hinder us in achieving our tomorrow is looking back. Let me give you a verse. We'll talk a little bit more. Let's find Philippians, you're familiar again, chapter 3, verse 13. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press forward toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. We have got to realize it is a godly trait. It is a God-given trait. It is an expectation from God toward us that we press forward. We press towards that mark, that high calling, that purpose that God has assigned to us. We move in that direction continually. And things that get us off course are things that we dismiss from our lives. It's not for you. Everything is not for you. You're a special somebody chosen by God to accomplish mighty exploits in the earth. So we forget the past. I think we did that a little while back, couple of weeks, and we shape our destiny. We remember the past failures just as point of education, not as brooding points, mourning points, but points of education. We realize we can't do that and achieve what God has assigned. So we forget those things that are behind. We stop trying to go back and relive our past. We stop trying to define our life by only what happened yesterday. The things in our past did happen? What valued education did you grasp from that moment? And how will it make you better today and tomorrow? Press toward the mark, pursue the prize, run for higher ground. We've got to learn how to stay focused on what God says we can have. Can we do that? I'm about to run out of time, but I want to give you a checklist of things. I'll give you a few of them that we can do to help us spend time wisely. What are you doing? We've got to spend our time wisely. All right, now let's say you're traveling or you're waiting. Waiting is one of my hard things to do. You praying for my patience? I seem to want everything to come on and let's happen and get it done. But sometimes we're traveling or we have to wait. So what do we do with our time? Sitting around waiting, use our time to read, use our time to write, listen to a recorded message. The internet could be used in a powerful way if we would find those things which are positive on the internet and use those for our education. Meditate and plan. That is never a dull moment. It's never an idle hour. But if we've got to sit here an hour because we got to the airport early and now they say our boarding will be delayed, find something positive to do rather than sitting there just going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm stuck here. Good time to read. Good time to meditate on the goodness of the Lord. It's a good time to review your plan. Good time to listen to a recorded lesson, a point of education to refocus us. Determine in your own mind what's the best use of time in light of God's will for you. When I say read, write, listen, meditate, plan, which of these things are better for you? One might be your forte, one might be your strong suit, and not the other. Now, take charge of your own schedule rather than letting everybody else prioritize your time. Be the master of your time. It's a gift of God. Why should others control it? Sometimes when you're put in a position of leadership, of authority, you let everybody come to your desk, to your phone, and redirect your journey because we're trying to please everybody, help everybody, encourage everybody. Sometimes you've got to stop and see where is everything in relation to what God told you to do. You've got to take charge. Sometimes the tools given for success may turn into tools of hindrance. If that phone is ringing constantly so that before you could fulfill the first 3 directives or requests, here's 10 more, you need to separate yourself from the phone for a little while and get refocused on what you're trying to accomplish. You don't have to answer every call immediately. You can call back. Sometimes we get nothing done because we're trying to do all of it. We've got to learn to prioritize. We've got to learn when our plate is full. Sometimes even learn how to say no. But that's what we have to do. Become the master of your own time. Unnecessary intrusions in the middle of an important project will hinder and cause us to fail. Time management places us in position to receive the forward momentum of the carrier of life, of time. We've got to be in the right place. We've got to learn how to manage it. Let me stop there because I look down and there are a few more I can share with you. And we have come to that point in time that we stop. I hope I said something that blessed you on this evening. I pray God just moves into the midst of every one of your thought process, helps you to understand your purpose, your being, give you a new motivation in life. You're a success already, loved ones. You just got to realize who you are. You're a king's kid. You're the righteousness of God. You're the apple of his eye. You are created in God's own image. And he has put these attributes of success alive in you. And you've just got to recognize it. That's all growing in grace is about. Recognize how special God created you. He paused and created you as that unique and one and only individual in the earth. There must be greatness planted in you. God created you. So, loved ones, get ready for a burst of extraordinary blessing in your life. Get ready to be overwhelmed with greatness and with success. Know that you're going to do it. But take and apply this skill set to hurry you on your way to even greater victories in God. Grow in grace. God bless you. I love you. Pray for me. I'm praying for you.